Hello everyone and welcome to Bali. My name is Wright and I'm the Regional Director for World Neighbours, which is a US-based NGO which has been working here in Southeast Asia since the 1990s. I'll be joined in this presentation by Aristyo Wijaya, who is a researcher from the Institute of Technology Bandung, one of Indonesia's leading science and technology-based universities. We're here today to talk about climate-smart agriculture technology, which we've developed, which is helping farmers in Indonesia increase crop production in the face of the growing threat caused by climate change, and to be better prepared for potential hydrometeorological disasters. So we at World Neighbours, we work in the area of Indonesia immediately to the east of Bali, which is known as Nusa Tenggara. Here, agriculture is the primary source of both sustenance and income for rural communities. But agriculture here is exceptionally vulnerable to the growing threat caused by climate change and the corresponding slow and rapid onset hazards. Crop failure stemming from increasingly long dry seasons are common, while the wet season, which roughly spans from November to March, often causes flooding, landslides, and widespread damage to agricultural lands. So we work mainly in upland areas where the topography can be very steep. We work with dryland farmers, meaning that there's almost no irrigation, so all agriculture is rain-fed. This means that harvest success or failure depends largely on accurately predicting when the rains will come, so you know when is the best time to plant, and what type of crops are best suited for the amount and intensity of rain which will fall during the wet season. So it was against this backdrop that World Neighbours and TO's Faculty of Science and Earth Technology introduced our climate-smart agricultural tools. TO will explain the technology behind them, but basically they use algorithms to create detailed rainfall pattern projections. The information is detailed down to the village level, giving farmers critical information on when, where, and how much rain will fall, the opportune time to plant, and what type of crops are most suitable for the conditions, together with warnings for potential hydrometeorological disasters. The rainfall information is clearly displayed in map form like this. So this is Neighbours district on Flores Island, which is one of the districts we work in. This is displaying the amount of rainfall which will fall over a 10-day period. So you can see the key here showing white, which is 0 millimeters of rain over the 10-day period, up to dark red, which is 250 millimeters. In Neighbours, the dominant crop is corn, and the most suitable amount of rain for grown corn is around 150 to 200 millimeters. So we're looking at villages which are light green to yellow. So if it's red color, it means there's too much rain, and it's white or pink, or even these blue colors up in the north, then it's recommended not to start to plant. As I said, these maps are for 10-day periods. So we would share something like this with the farmers, and then for each calendar month, there's 3 maps for the first, middle, and last 10-day period. To determine the best planting time for their main crop of corn, which needs around 2 months of decent rainfall, farmers only need to look for their village and see where there's 6 maps in a row with this green or yellow color. Then they will know that there's sufficient rain to plant. So the initial tools we created were in hard copy and looked like this. It soon became apparent to us that it would not be possible to expand our scope of work by continuing with this approach only. A new technique was therefore needed to expand access to this information in a timely and economical manner. We needed to migrate the data into a digital format and make it available across an entire district to everyone, not just a few villages which our relatively small NGO project was working in. I'll now hand over to Theo, who will explain the technology behind these tools.
Thank you, Ed, for the introduction. As Ed mentioned before, the farmer problems in Nusa Tenggara are circulating around the water availability during the crop plantation time. The unavailability of water resulted in crop failure that caused huge loss for the farmers. Meanwhile, the availability of the water for farmers almost completely depended on the rainfall. By looking at new conditions, with the collaboration of World Neighbours and the ITB, we create a tailor-made solution that was adapted to the existing condition locally by developing an effort toward precision farming and climate-smart agriculture with digital technology in Indonesia. The solution we created started with how to predict rainfall with high accuracy, specifically to local scale at the village level. To that end, we use local rainfall data available at BMKG, high-resolution remote sensing from satellites, and the indigenous knowledge collected by farmers locally. For producing a long-term rainfall prediction, we use patented smart claim model, or known as SCM, that has been developed since 2008. This model introduced a 10-day timescale that will enable farmers to more accurately plan their planting times. The SMART model combines three-step methods that consist of least square nonlinear analysis in the primary model. That is to prepare the rainfall signal, the fast Fourier transform for produce climate anomalies that are applied to rainfall in Nusa Tenggara, and later, the model will project it for 5 years ahead and will be validated using Aristyo or another method of verification that compares prediction with observation at the same time and location. And recently, we found that the farmers also need the short-term weather prediction for anticipating the extreme weather risks that cause damage to crops. To support that, we provide the weather prediction using the Weather Research and Forecasting Model, or known as WRF, that has been fine-tuned to Nusa Tenggara. This model has been used following the latest state-of-the-art globally by producing the weather forecast in 1 kilometer resolution, and later the prediction will be assimilated with observation data that will increase the accuracy of prediction. As the farmers' needs, the output of this short-term prediction consists of weather parameters such as rainfall, wind speed, air temperature, air humidity, or air pressure that can be used to farmers to manage the drying time after harvest and also to avoid crop failure. While we could provide the rainfall prediction either short-term or long-term, the gaps of understanding the information still existed, and the time was needed for the farmers to understand the information. Also, we found that lately the farmers have used the smartphone, and that we could use to bridge this condition. Therefore, we developed another solution by creating a mobile application that could transform the weather prediction information directly from this side to this side, and we call it as Disaster and Agricultural Preparedness System, or also known as SKPB. SKPB itself is aiming to solve the farmer gaps of understanding and increase the applicable of weather prediction by transforming and providing the simple information of water availability, pest control, and disaster early warning system in crop calendar through planting season. Using this prediction, SKPB could also able to determine the beginning of planting time and harvest time. Besides the beginning and end of planting season, SKPB also provides pesticide and fertilizer application time. SKPB provides further information combined with the ingenious practice that are often used by the farmers. Also, with the rainfall prediction, SKPB could warn the farmers that there are potential hydrometeorological disasters such as floods, droughts that will happen in that area, so they could prepare for the worst risk for their crop plantation. Along with the development of the prediction and application, the question arises how to measure its accuracy and how to get them to trust the information that has been provided in the app. To answer this question, the ITB has used two approaches, namely statistical accuracy and by asking farmers directly. Measurement of statistical accuracy was carried out by comparing the prediction data with observation data with method R-square, root mean square error, and R-scale. The results are quite satisfactory, with accuracy reached above 70% for long-term rainfall prediction for up to next 5 years ahead. However, in the third year of the prediction period, we found that the prediction decreased the accuracy to 65%. This further guarantees that smart climate model accuracy will always be updated every 2 years to maintain high accuracy. Meanwhile, for the short-term weather prediction, the accuracy of the prediction also reached more than 70% during the test period. The accuracy is already high enough for tropical area, which are very difficult to predict in short term due to rapid weather changes.
So we didn't want this just to be an NGO project. So a big part of our work has been convincing the regional governments where we work of the worth of these apps and for them to take ownership and work directly with Pak Tio and his team in creating apps for their districts. After a long and very intense process, so far in 3 out of the 5 districts we work in, the government has taken over and now works directly with Pak Tio and his team in creating apps for their districts. But of course it's not enough just to create the apps. It's still a long way from having this information and getting it to the people who need it most, the farmers. So we were asked by the government to train the agricultural extension workers in how to use the apps. This was met with a very enthusiastic response from these extension workers, helped immensely by the fact that these apps were now owned by the government, so it wasn't seen as an NGO project anymore. So to date we've trained over 500 of the extension workers who then spread out across their districts and shared the apps with their farmer groups. In this way, entire districts could be covered, rather than the 5 or 6 villages our relatively small NGO project had focused on in our previous work. So to date, just over the last 3 years, 43,000 farmers from 500 villages across Nusa Tenggara have received this information. 30,000, which is around 70%, have adapted their agricultural cycles based on the predictions. These 30,000 farmers have used these tools over farmland measuring 14,000 hectares, so it's quite a large area that we're talking about. And there have been significant differences in the crop yields between farmers who use the rainfall predictions and those who do not. This graph shows the average increase in rice and corn production in tons per hectare of those farmers who use the rainfall predictions compared to for those in the same area who didn't. So you can see that over the last 3 years, they have enjoyed average increases of 54% in rice yields and 48% in corn yields. If we break it down year by year, you can see that the increases in rice yields varies greatly. 42% in 2019, 85% in 2020, and 26% in 2021. The reason for these large variances is the relationship between the predicted rainfall patterns given by the apps with the traditional timings that farmers would generally use. So in 2020, we can see that there was a huge difference in the time and intensity of rain, so the farmers who grew rice, according to their normal habits, didn't get enough rainfall for good plant growth, so their yields were low, compared to the farmers who followed our recommendations. Whereas in 2021, farmers who used the apps and farmers who planted according to their normal planting cycle planted around the same time, so there wasn't much of a difference in their yields. But it's not just increases in primary crops where farmers have seen the benefits. In many villages where we work, if the soil is fertile enough and there's enough predicted rainfall, the apps have given the farmers the confidence to plant a second crop after they're harvesting their primary crop of rice or corn. This secondary crop is usually green beans or peanuts. So all this has added up to an average increase of 3 months of food self-sufficiency for the farmers we work with. As you can see, the average is now 12.3 months, meaning that these farmers and their families are food secure for the whole year, based only on what they grow themselves. This is Bapak Mariadi, who is a farmer we work with on Lombok Island, who can tell you more about his experience working with these tools.
Kami melakukan penanaman itu atas dasar musiman saja. Bila hujan turun, maka kami langsung menanam dan tidak bisa menentukan jenis tanaman apa yang akan kami tanam, sehingga hasilnya kami sedikit kecewa dan kurang memuaskan. Maka setelah itu kami mencoba pada tahun pertama coba mempelajari dan memahami apa isi daripada peta pola curah hujan tersebut. Pada tahun 2020 tersebut kami sangat berhasil di dalam menanam jagung tersebut, sampai yang lahan yang 1 hektar itu bisa menghasilkan 8 ton lebih.
Apart from agriculture, the apps have also been used to improve disaster preparedness. Villages are using them for contingency planning so that they are much better prepared for when flooding and droughts occur. While government agencies, especially the Disaster Management Agency, have told us that the apps have greatly improved their ability to estimate the potential for hydrometeorological disasters. This has meant that DRR programs are now far more targeted and well scheduled, and the response time to these disasters has decreased. So looking ahead, over the next few years, we plan to expand our work from our current 5 districts to these 10. We also plan to hold a national workshop in Jakarta to get more central government interest and support in our work. And as for the apps, we would like to incorporate new features such as crop yield predictions and targeted guidance on pest management. Okay, that's it from myself and Tio. We hope you found this interesting. Terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much.